Hello, viewers. It's Josie. Welcome back to Eclectic Movie Reviews. The day of this recording is October 17th, 2024. I understand that I have not made a video in a while. I took a break in September because I kind of wanted to, just take a break, and there weren't that many releases that I was eager to talk about right away. Because of this year we have felt the effects of the strikes, of the writers and actors strikes, and so the release slate is pretty thin, but there are some gems. If you look for them, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm going to give a couple of recommendations in this video of movies that I've seen over the last couple of months and really enjoyed and quite loved. And the first one I want to talk about is Ghostlight, directed by Alex Thompson and Kelly O'Sullivan, who are a couple, I believe. So Dan Muller, played by Keith Kupfer, is a construction worker undergoing familial conflict after a tragedy. His son Brian died of a drug overdose, and he and his wife Sharon, played by Tara Mallon, who's actually Keith Kupfer's real-life wife, are in the middle of a lawsuit against Brian's former girlfriend, whom he did drugs with. Brian's former girlfriend's family, I should specify. One day after a confrontation with a pedestrian on the street, he comes across a woman named Rita, played by Dolly DeLeon, from Triangle of Sadness, who is a member of the local community theater. She asks him to take part in a production of Romeo and Juliet that they are doing. Dan discovers community and personal meaning through performance, and it helps him get closer to his family. His daughter Daisy, played by Catherine Kupfer, his real-life daughter, is into theater, but she's taken a break from acting because the death of Brian took such a heavy toll on her. Her dad helps reinvigorate her interest in dramatic performance. And it's such an emotionally powerful narrative and one of the most underrated movies of the year. Not only does it depict the healing power of the arts and the art's ability to bring people together, but it also shows, in an authentic way, how it is possible for resilience to form after devastating tragedies. I think the film suggests that the big ingredient for building such resilience is healthy nonviolent communication. And I very much recommend Ghostlight, and if in a just world, this movie would receive acting nominations and original screenplay nomination, and even a SAG Ensemble nomination. All these performances are fantastic, and just great story all around. It is currently streaming on AMC Plus. I don't have AMC Plus, so I rented it for a couple dollars. And it doesn't physical media release, which is stupid. It deserved, from what I know, it doesn't, but it really should get one. It's really worthy of one. The next film I want to talk about is Hundreds of Beavers, directed by Mike Cheslick. So, shot in the style of an old black and white silent film with an orchestra in the background, with music in the background, the narrative follows a lumberjack/applejack salesman who, in order to achieve his goal of becoming the greatest fur trapper, must fight off hundreds of and win the heart of the daughter of another fur trapper. He must fight off, as the title says, hundreds of beavers. I love this movie. Similar to Sam Raimi and Peter Jackson, Mike Cheslake with Hundreds of Beavers delivers such a practical handmade quality. Uh, it make it feel like a goofy live action cartoon. It's also a great romantic comedy. The costuming and sets are genuinely impressive. Um, the best thing about this movie, in my opinion, is how sincere the humor is. And Hundreds of Beavers is available to watch on Tubi. Next up is The Substance, written and directed by Coralie Fargiat. Or Fargeet. I don't know which is the correct, but this movie is a grossly delicious roller coaster ride. Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley are absolutely fantastic. A lot has already been said about the symbolism of this movie in terms of the treatment of women in Hollywood. This won Best Screenplay at Cannes, and some say that Coralie Fargeet should have won Director, given that it is more of a directing movie than a screenplay movie. While I do think it is fair that is a fair statement to make as far as like what people remember the most, what like you think about the most coming out of the movie, because you think a lot about the visuals after this movie's over, but while there are cases where a film's direction can help elevate a screenplay, I would argue that people thinking that dialogue constitutes for screenplay, a lot of dialogue constitutes for screenplay, is just another sign of today's poor media literacy. Haven't y'all heard of stage directions? I was listening to the Movies That Made Me podcast episode featuring Coralie Fargiat, and Joe Dante's co-host, Josh Olson, was praising Coralie's ability to tell a story through minimal dialogue. And Coralie Fargiat explained how a film that inspired her in terms of learning how to tell a story through minimal dialogue was Steven Spielberg's Duel. And earlier this year, Denis Villeneuve, I remember, got some mild pushback for stating that he doesn't like to write a lot of dialogue. Personally, I love a good dialogue-driven narrative. Equally, I think the power of storytelling comes with what is not verbally said as well as what's verbally said. Of course, this all depends on I guess it's a case-by-case scenario with the film. And some have criticized The Substance for being too on the nose and heavy-handed due to its symbolism. While these symbols may be relatively easy to analyze for some folks in an introductory film class essay with regards to, the unrealistic beauty standards of women, I would push back on it being preachy, because the fact that they don't verbally explain the meaning behind every symbol speaks to the strength of Coralie's screenwriting talent in addition to her directing. I think there's a tendency amongst film fan influencers to label anything that has a symbolic meaning as preachy because they claim to understand the message. I think those people say that because there is this feeling of them they feel that they're too smart for the messaging. In other words, I know that, well, I would have to be taught that again. And, I think it's kind of, I think a huge part of what makes the symbolism work for me in The Substance is Coralie Fargiat's attention to detail. This camera work really highlights the way women are programmed to fixate on specific parts of their bodies to be perfect. And the practical visual effects and makeup in this film is spectacular. They're spectacular, and there must have been such a high degree of difficulty for each subsequent transformation Demi Moore's character goes throughout the film. It 100% deserves to be nominated and win Oscars for those categories. I want to close my discussion on The Substance by explaining briefly what I love most about it. There's a book called Love Yourself Like Depends on It. And I see this movie as a warning about the dire consequences that occur if one does not love themselves. Sorry, I dropped my bookmark from my notes. um, I don't know how many more theaters The Substance is currently playing in, but if it's playing at a theater near you at a and if you're able to go, definitely go see it. If you like horror movies, of course, one does. So this movie obviously won't be everyone's cup of tea. So you'll never be grossed out by that, but that's okay. To each one's own. And it is a movie original, so I assume it will be on Mubi sometime soon. I don't know when, but you can always do a free trial of Mubi or subscribe to Mubi if you want. I only did a free trial of Mubi once. I don't have Mubi anymore, I don't think. But the last, I remember Fallen Leaves was a Mubi original, and obviously didn't have Mubi accessible to me at the time. So I rented it on Apple TV, and I still, they may do a VOD release sometime in the future for it. I don't know, through Amazon Prime or Apple TV, like to rent for a couple dollars. But that, like I said, I don't know. And a 4K release of The Substance would be awesome. But that's all I have to say about that. And one more thing I want to say about The Substance. You can clearly tell Coralie Fargeet's love of cinema through the visuals of this movie, with her odes and her homages to Cronenberg, Kubrick. It's written all over, and it's awesome. So that's all I have to say about The Substance. Next, let's talk about The Wild Robot, directed by Chris Sanders, based on Peter Brown's best-selling juvenile fiction book, which is also a fantastic read. I read all 3 books this summer, and I loved them all. So I don't want to talk too much about what this film's about, because there's plenty of marketing for it, and that would just be redundant if I did. But and I also echo what's been said about the voice performances being absolutely wonderful. Lupita Nyong'o is just so outstanding as Roz, and the voice ensemble cast is great too. Pedro Pascal is delightful as the fox. I like Catherine O'Hara as Pinktail the possum. Mark Hamill does a voice. Bill Nye does a voice. Ving Rhames also does a voice. Really, really great, talented voice cast. But I want to get into a few of the life lessons that the film teaches. Detractors in the minority in terms of reception have argued that the film is kind of preachy. Once again, I push back on that, because what I love about the screenplay adaptation is that while it's able to present, is how it's able to present the messages without explicitly stating the words. They're more implicit through character motivation, action, and interaction than they are through this means this. And I think it's again, poor media literacy. So obviously there are the themes of found family and environmental protection, and like different species coming together in the midst of environmental struggle, is representative of different groups of people setting aside their petty differences to work together to help Mother Earth. And there's also a parental allegory, sort of, on the In Session Film podcast. Brendan Cassidy stated that his girlfriend pointed out how Roz's body changes is sort of reflective of the bodily changes that happen with women post-pregnancy. I thought that was an interesting thing to bring up. And then JD, his co-host, brought up the reprogramming that Roz goes through is like speaks to the how parenting literally reprograms human beings when, you know, they become parents. And one theme I took note of that not many reviews of this film have been discussing is life cycles. The seasons play a role in the narrative as Roz must teach Brightbill how to fly before springtime, given that's when the geese migrate. And beyond that, there are parallels between nature's cycles and cycles with our own individual learning journeys. Not all nature is beautiful. In fact, nature can be rough with storms and wildfires. Nevertheless, resilience can be formed with perseverance and teamwork. And yeah, it's really all I have to say. I will be back with more videos soon. As films such as Honora and Memoir of a Snail, among others, will be releasing soon, and I'm really excited for those. It was such a pleasure doing this video. Like I said, I'll be back soon. Thank you for watching. Goodbye for now.